Hello, Georgetta Gankars here, and today I'm going to be doing a little bit of some reminders for students that want to paint with the brush and the palette knife, and I'm going to be showing you some different type of fast strokes that you can do to achieve a little bit of texture. So let's get started. The first thing is you'll need is your palette, and as you can see I have yellow here and I have blue, and I separated them 2 inches apart from each other so I have room to mix. And if you're using acrylics, you'll need a cup of water. You should have 2 cups, one for your light and one for your dark colors, to clean your brush in between sessions of picking up the paint. And then you'll need a rag to wipe your brush off. And if you're doing oils, you'll need the same thing, except with oils, you'll be dipping your brush this time into a little bit of terp. And you can, if you're not using the terp, you can use linseed oil. Usually when you're using the terpenoid, you're going to get a very thin wash. You can try it both ways, with the terp and with just with the linseed oil, okay? And you're going to need very thick, heavy white typing paper to kind of do this on. And I'm using heavy-weighted typing paper here. I wouldn't use your canvas to do these kind of little small demos for yourself, because it would just be a waste of the whole canvas. So the first thing that we're going to do is I want to show you the type of brush that I have. Some students have brushes that are bristle hair, and this is bristle hair, and the texture is rough. And some students have brushes that are a little bit softer, that are synthetic. And you can see it's a little bit softer and it's more flexible. So this is really good when Impressionist painting, because you're really going to have the strokes, and you're going to see each individual stroke with these hairs. This is a little bit for smoother painting. And these brushes, synthetic brushes, they also come in this color, and sometimes you'll see them in white. And they work well for Impressionist painting, but the stroke is going to be a lot smoother. So today I'm going to use the bristle hair brush, and what I'm going to do is, when you have a bristle hair brush, it's good to use a flat. So see how this looks square? This is basically a flat brush, and this brush would be a round. It's almost like a mop. See how there's like a mop brush? And you'll notice even when the brushes are smaller, you'll have squares, and then you'll have round ones that are very pointy and they come to a point, okay? So I'm going to start off with this brush that is in the shape, you'll see it's the shape of a square. It's called a flat. And on my brush, this happens to be a size 7. But you really can't go according to the numbers, because sometimes according to the country and the manufacturer, the number will be different. So I just want to use a medium-sized brush. And my canvas is pretty small. My watercolor paper I'm just using as a demo. You can use larger sheets if you want, or smaller sheets. This is just a carrier size sheet, and it works better for the camera. So the first thing I want to do is I want to dip my brush in my water, and then I just want to wipe it off on my rag. And the reason you want to do that is your brush probably has been sitting out for a long time. Maybe it's dry. You're just getting some kind of water into it. You're not saturating it for a long time. You're just dipping it in. And again, if you're using oils, you would dip it in your terp a little bit and just wipe it off on a rag. Or if you're using linseed oil, you would dip it in your linseed oil and wipe it off on a rag. And again, with oils, if you're using terp, it just makes it a little bit more transparent, right? The wash, it's going to be more like a wash. It's going to be thinner, the paint. Whereas if you leave the linseed oil, you'll keep the thickness to the paint. So it's up to you to decide which way you want to do it. I would try with both. But with the acrylics, you only have the option of using water. You can also do this with watercolors, and you would just be using water, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my brush, and I'm going to just dip it into my yellow paint. So I'm just dipping the edge. I'm not saturating the whole brush, and you can see it's only on the tip. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my watercolor paper, and I'm just going to dab it. So I'll show you, and I'll show you what it looks like up close. I'm just dabbing it, and I'm going slow. I'm like bum, 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 just dabbing it. And when I dab it, I'll show you, I get this little textures, and it just looks like that. Okay? And what I can do is I can put another color directly without cleaning my brush. So I didn't clean my brush, I just dipped it. It had yellow on the edge, but I dipped it directly into blue. Okay? And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to fill in these spaces where they're empty in between. And now I have these green because some of the paint combined with the yellow and blue, and it made green. And this is what I want to do when I want to make trees. I can go back over those colors, very lightly pushing my brush, and I get this idea where it almost looks like the top part of a tree. And it's an easy way to make foliage. And I can go again. I didn't clean my brush. I'm just dipping it in my yellow, and I'm going on top. Now remember, if you're using oil paints, you want to dab very lightly because you don't want the colors to get muddy, okay? And with oil, you don't need as much paint. I took out about less than a dime size of acrylics. You can use less with oils. And you just keep doing that all around. And you have now 3 colors. You have yellow green, you have a little bit of blue-green. And you can just keep doing it, and I'll put it up close so you can see. And you can do it in any color, but it just makes these textures, and it looks like foliage on a tree. And that is basically using, again, your brush that looks like it comes to a square. It's called a flat, a medium flat. So now I'm going to take my brush, and I'm just cleaning it in my water, and I'm wiping it off on my rag very gently, and it's pretty much clean. Now sometimes when you do clean the brushes, you'll notice there's a little settlement on the brush. That is the staining. It usually stays there. You're okay with that as long as you get out the pigment. The next thing that I want to show you with the palette knife is the same thing. And I'm going to use a half blade. So this is a half blade. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up my paint on the back, and I'm going to do the same thing. I call it press and release in my book. And I'm just pressing it, and I'm lifting it up, and it looks like an orange almost. It looks like the inside, the texture that you would see in the inside of an orange. And I'm going to do it again. I'm going to do it a little bit more, and then I'm going to pick some blue up, right where I have the, and I'm just putting the blue directly on top of the yellow, and I get that. Okay, and depending on the size of your palette knife and also how much paint you're putting on, you can do layer upon layer upon layer. And if you're using acrylics, you can also use gel medium and mix it into the paint, and that will make the paint transparent, and you'll be able to see the layers on top of each other. So now I'm just going to put more yellow, and I'm just building up these colors, and I'm just showing you the way you can do press and release also, like we did up here above, but this is just with the palette knife. So it gives a different type of texture. It's a little bit more raised. Okay, so that's with the palette knife, and this is with the brush. And we'll do it one more time. I'm not cleaning my knife. I'm picking up some blue. I can even pick up yellow at the same time. Okay, and when I do that, I'll show you the texture that it makes on the paper here. So we'll do it again, and we'll move to a new spot and try it with different colors. You know, you can keep picking up more yellow, more blue. Okay, and you get this. This is really good for Impressionist painting when you're trying to do these bushes, and you want to have like lots of foliage and lots of color on top. I usually start with my yellows and my blues because they'll mix and make greens, and I can add different color greens into them. So try this exercise. I call it press and release in my book, but you can give it another name if you want, and it works really well. And look at what's happening also on your wax paper. So try this a couple of times. I would say try it in fall colors. Try it in reds and yellows, and you can make oranges, and tell me how you like it. And then I'm going to do another video, and I'm going to show you how we're going to do other methods with Impressionist painting with the knife and the brush. See you soon.